As always, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
John, you are the best. You are the best interviewer on this subject in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. Say hi to Ginger. Okay, folks, that is not the horse's mouth. That's the mouth of one of the most brilliant medical minds on the planet, Dr. Peter Breggin. We're going to a break now. Stay tuned at the top of the hour because we have a lot more to say about Robert Bales, the sergeant in Afghanistan, the Jason Russell story, and invisible children. This is Jon Rappoport on The Alex Jones Show. This is Jon Rappoport in San Diego, sitting in for Alex Jones on The Alex Jones Show. We're talking medical murder. We're talking medical cartel. We're talking about a globalist agenda to make you a patient in the system from cradle to grave and dose you with toxic pharmaceuticals, debilitate you and your children and the population all the way down the line to make you more malleable and easy to control. That's the agenda, folks, in a nutshell. What the medical system has done is taken the aspects of itself that produce good results. For example, emergency crisis trauma medicine. You know, you're lying on the street and you've been run over by a bus. Well, somebody comes along with a glass of, with herbs in it, as opposed to the guys, paramedics, and they want to take you to the hospital and they put you back together again. You're liable to say, let's go to the hospital, folks. But they parlay that, you see, into saying that everything medical is just as good as we can do in putting you back together after you've been run over on the street. Everything is just as good. Long-term treatment for chronic diseases and treatment for brain problems and cancer and heart disease and all of this, and prevention and vaccines and so on and so forth. It's all just as good as we are good at putting you back together after you've been run down on the street. That's their angle. That's their play. That's their con game. That's their shell game. You just heard Dr. Peter Breggin, one of the brilliant lights in the field, talk about what's happening in the military now, where people, kids who want to go to war, are being told, you can't go to war unless you'll take the psychiatric drugs. The drugs that have been shown time and time again by Breggin and others to cause violent, erratic, suicidal, homicidal behavior. You want to see the relationship between Prozac and the other SSRI antidepressants, Zoloft, Paxil, and so on, to violence and violent behavior and other long-term debilitating effects? There's material all over the place. And at Breggin.com you can find much of that. Okay. We're talking about Robert Bale, the sergeant who is now accused of killing 16 civilians in Afghanistan. You heard Dr. Breggin talking about the pileup of effects here, from PTSD to the fourth deployment, and also he brought up a fantastic point about how, because he's handling some of these cases, Dr. Breggin, a soldier during the day is being used to go into a village and help reconstruct a village. And yet the soldier knows that at night, some of the same people in that village, he doesn't know who, are going to turn against him because they really are Taliban, and they're going to try to kill him. This is a way to fight a war? I mean, I'm laughing because what else are you going to do? I could scream. This is a way to fight a war? This is not a war. This is an operation to gain control of resources, as we are seeing with AfricaCom, all over the world where America and other of its allies are intruding. This is about natural resources. It's about rare earth minerals. It's about oil pipelines. It's about domination of the populace. And under that heading, what has been left out of the equation, even in much alternative news, under the heading of debilitation of the population, is the ultimate agenda of the medical cartel. And I'm showing you here step by step and degree by degree, and we've got a lot more to go, is that this is in fact debilitating and destructive to you, your children, and the population. Jon Rappoport here for Alex Jones. Don't go anywhere. We will be back. Jon Rappoport here sitting in for Alex Jones today on the Alex Jones Show, referring back to Dr. Breggin's comments about the dangerous effects, the violence-inducing effects, for example, of certain psychiatric drugs and how widespread they are in the society. You want to demoralize the society? You want to put people into a state of fear, confusion? You want to debilitate a society? You want to produce an operation like that that makes the society in the long run easier to take over by those elite forces who want to take it over? There's the formula. You plant seeds, folks. You plant seeds everywhere of these and other toxic drugs, some of which induce violence. And you stand back and you say, let it roll. Let it roll, boys. Let it roll. And you watch what happens. And things become more and more and more bizarre in that society. Weirdnesses pop up in the press of strange stories of people running naked out onto the street and killing other people unexplainably. What is all this about? And nobody knows. The press doesn't want to say. The press doesn't want to cover it. The press doesn't want to investigate. What I'm telling you is that's the formula. You put enough of these pharmaceutical drugs into a society, and that's what you will get, and that's what we are seeing. And here I will give you the proof right now. Okay? Screw in your brains real tight on this one. Barbara Starfield, doctor, Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. The year 2000. The Journal of the American Medical Association. So far, the credentials are pristine. Mainstream, conventional medicine, perfect credentials. July 26, 2000, Journal of the American Medical Association. Starfield writes a review called, Is U.S. Health Really the Best in the World? And in it, she concludes the following. That in the United States every year, the medical system kills 225,000 people. 119,000 of those in incidents and events related to hospitals, and 106,000 a year, like clockwork, deaths every year in the United States from FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs. Drugs approved by the FDA as safe and effective. Killing 106,000 people in the U.S. like clockwork every year. And if you care to add that up, you will see it comes to more than 1 million Americans per decade killed by FDA-approved and certified pharmaceutical drugs. Okay? Chew on that. Chew on that. Chew on that. Perfect, insider, mainstream, conventional, down the middle of the road credentials, the author, the medical journal, the publication, and that's the report. In the year 2000. Every year, FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs kill 106,000 people. In the United States. Not even talking about maiming, we're talking about killing. And the medical system on the whole kills 225,000 people a year. Like clockwork in the United States, that would be 2.25 million people a year. A decade. 2.25 million people a decade. You want to use the word Holocaust? You want to use the word genocide? Medical treatment is now the third leading cause of death in the United States behind heart disease and cancer, and has been at least since the year 2000 when this was published. I've been broadcasting this fact all over the world for the last, 5 years. I interviewed Dr. Starfield, one of the last interviews she did before she died in 2011. I said to her, after you published your article in the year 2000 and cited those statistics, did anybody from the FDA ever contact you for assistance in trying to correct this situation? This was an email interview, and she wrote back, no, in capital letters, N-O. Anybody from the government get back to you and say, we need your help, we have to fix this? No. Are you aware of any efforts, remedial efforts, by the government? After all, it's the FDA, which is an executive agency of the federal government, that says these drugs are safe. Any effort that you know of by the government to fix this? No. No. Did your paper, when you published it in the Journal of the American Medical Association, receive any overwhelming criticism? No. It was given, in a sense, the silent treatment. There were stories in the media at the time, but they went away eventually. Starfield, over the years, continued to get at least, she said, one request a week for a copy of that paper. But the media were absolutely silent. And we'll get to the reasons why. Of course, we know all about advertising revenue from pharmaceutical companies. Yes, yes, yes. But there are deeper reasons for media silence on this. Because when you think about it, this is a gigantic story. Even just from the story point of view. I'm a reporter, okay? I know a story when I see it. You know a story when you see it. This drives me crazy. This drives me crazy. If the New York Times or the Washington Post or any other major U.S. paper that is, in fact, going down the toilet, and they are, wanted to resurrect their species on this planet, all they would have to do is climb on this story that I'm feeding you here right now. Over 1 million people per decade killed in the United States by FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs on an ongoing basis. You don't think that that story could be run 3 or 4 times a day in print editions on newsstands with interviews, doctors coming out of the closet admitting, I knew, and I did nothing, and I feel so horrible now. And FDA people saying, I tried to warn the head of the FDA that this was happening. He wouldn't listen to me. I was sidelined. The president saying, I don't know anything about this. All manner of people emerging out of the woodwork. I can look into the future and see this story playing out in unbelievable ways over the next 3-4 years. You could pound on this sucker every day in a major newspaper like the Washington Post would make their Watergate investigation look like looking into theft in a candy store. Every day, new information, new things come out, new people talk, new doctors show up. And on top of this, you see, doctors are claiming, we don't know anything about this. Your medical doctor is saying, hey, I don't know anything about this. I can't believe this couldn't be true. As you sit there and say to your doctor, hey, by the way, Sam, I just want to let you know that there's a paper that was published on July 26, 2000, in the Journal of American Medical Association by Dr. Barbara Starfield that stated in no uncertain terms that FDA-approved pharmaceuticals kill 106,000 people a year in the United States every year. Oh, that's ridiculous. If that were true, I would have heard about it. Yes. Really? Is that so? Is that really so? Are we willing to accept that excuse from doctors anymore? I don't know. Let's suppose that you were, I don't know, a cab driver in New York City, okay? Here's a good analogy for you. We're getting down to it, folks. 106,000 people a year killed in the United States every year by FDA-approved pharmaceutical drugs, and a total of 225,000 from all effects of the medical system. Third leading cause of death in the United States, not being explored by the media. You want to know what pharmaceutical and medical warfare staged by the cartel against the global population is all about? And we're not even talking